Now guys, to kick off the video, let us first look at the outside chances that are already driving in Formula 1. Now, firstly, it is no surprise that we have to kick off this video with the one, the only Esteban Ocon. Now, although he is currently driving for Alpine and many consider him an Alpine driver, we have to remember that his contract, which he signed at the beginning of 2020, is only for 2 years, meaning at the end of this year, he is a free agent. And we cannot forget that he is managed by the one, the only himself, Toto Wolff, which is the team principal of Mercedes. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to consider Esteban Ocon driving this Mercedes, especially considering the fact that he was the reserve driver in 2019 for the Mercedes team. Now, although his 2020 was, in all honesty, pretty poor compared to his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, he still has a good chance to improve his chances for 2022 by having a good showing against his teammate in 2021, the Fernando Alonso. Now, although this is no easy feat, if he does manage to outperform Alonso, he could definitely see him potentially getting him a seat in Mercedes. However, if he does badly, well, then who knows? These options may simply become no seat at all in Formula 1 or just another few years at Alpine. We don't know what is in store for Ocon, but one thing for sure is a good performance would not hurt his chances this season. The other outside chance is, of course, Max Verstappen. Now, all eyes are on this guy. I mean, it's no surprise. He is a really good driver. However, we do have to remember that this chance is quite slim because he does have a contract with Red Bull until 2023. And with the performance being shown by Red Bull this year, it is very unlikely that he will have a chance to break his contract. Besides, I mean, no one knows which team is going to be the top in 2022, so it makes sense for Max to just stay put at Red Bull. I mean, Red Bull is already a very good team, and it basically worships him, so I really don't see why he would want to leave. I mean, it's basically Max Verstappen racing after all. And finally, the other slim outside chance currently in Formula 1 is Charles Leclerc. However, I honestly don't think this is ever going to happen. I mean, the guy is already trying to get another Ferrari contract extension, and his contract is already still quite a long ways away from ending. So he is pretty passionate about the Tifosi and the red colored car, so I honestly can't see him racing anywhere else but Ferrari, so Mercedes will just have to look elsewhere. Now, besides the more obvious options in Formula 1, there are a few options outside of Formula 1 that we should quickly take a look at first before getting down to the more serious probability drivers that are going to race for Mercedes. Two outside possibilities are Stoffel Van Dorn and Nick de Vries. We'll start off with Stoffel Van Dorn. Stoffel Van Dorn is a former Formula 1 racing driver who drove for McLaren in 2016 to 2018. Now, just keep in mind, this was definitely the golden era of McLaren. Wink. To be honest though, his teammate was Fernando Alonso, and considering the car he was driving, his results weren't the best. But once again, we have to remember that the McLaren that year was worse than the toaster tractor of the Ferrari 2020 car. So we can't really slang him too much for his results. I mean, they weren't the worst, but they definitely weren't anything to brag about. Obviously, after that, he left Formula 1 and no longer had a Formula 1 seat. But I still feel that he's a pretty darn good driver. Now, obviously, he is driving in Formula E for the Mercedes team, which boosts his good chances of getting a Mercedes seat because he is still linked with Mercedes. He also did become the test driver for the Mercedes team and has done multiple simulator tests for Mercedes. I honestly think Stoffel is a good driver, so if I was Mercedes, I would think about trying to get him. However, the chances are slim considering he had a chance to race for them last year when Lewis Hamilton got sick at the Sakir Grand Prix, but they still chose someone else besides him, which I think will hurt his chances a little bit. But despite that, I still think he is having a solid enough showing in Formula E, and I still believe he is a really good driver who didn't get to show us all his talent in Formula 1. The McLaren days were not the best, but I still think he deserves a seat in Formula 1. However, it looks like he is going to be a Formula E driver for the time being, so we'll just have to see. Potentially a good performance in Formula E this year, you never know. Things can happen. The other option in Formula E is, of course, Nick de Vries. Now, Nick de Vries is, of course, the Formula 2 champion of 2019 who never managed to get a seat in Formula 1, which in all honesty, is quite tragic. However, things do happen, and despite this, I still think he is a great driver that deserves a shout in Formula 1. However, now that he is in the Mercedes Formula E team this year, as well as now also becoming a test driver for Mercedes, he does have the chance of a potential Formula 1 debut with Mercedes. However, with no experience in Formula 1, I can see Mercedes opting for someone else, but you never know. There is always a chance that Nick may get a shot in Formula 1, and he really does deserve a chance to show what he can do. But for now, he is driving in Formula E, and we'll just have to pump up good performances in there. I mean, he's already got some good results in the short time of his Formula E Mercedes career, so the future is looking bright for him in Formula E. But as for Formula 1, well, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, with all the main drivers that have an outside chance covered, we got to look at the main three guys who are going to get the seats potentially get the seats for Mercedes. Now, I believe that these three drivers are most likely going to be driving for Mercedes, and I can't really consider any of the other guys which you talked about getting the seat unless something crazy happens. But out of these three, I'm pretty darn sure that at least two of them are going to get a seat. So let's talk about the first one, and the first one that's actually going to get a seat, in my opinion, is George Russell. Now, George Russell is a Williams driver currently, but his contract does end at the end of 2021. Now, I honestly believe this is a quite obvious choice for Mercedes. He is young, and he already has quite a lot of experience in Formula 1, considering he has been driving in Williams since 2019, which means by the end of the season, he will have 3 full years of Formula 1 experience. Yes, in a back-end car, but despite that, he still has had some good showings in Williams, making it to Q2 on multiple occasions in the 2020 and 2021 season so far. He also had the one race in Mercedes in 2021 at the Sakura Grand Prix, where he filled in fully sick Lewis Hamilton instead of the other options like Stoffel Van Dorn. But despite this, he did a really darn good job and actually kicked his teammate Bottas to the curve on his first race in Mercedes. If that doesn't prove that he is a good driver, I really don't know what is, as he had a chance to win the Sakura Grand Prix multiple times until it was inevitably won by Sergio Perez. I really feel that George Russell is the future of Mercedes, so I cannot see any other reason for them not to put him in the seat. He's got experience now, and I think he is young and he is the future of the Mercedes team. And it's about time, with the new regulations on the horizon, I think it would be a perfect time to bring him into the team. Which leaves the other seat. Now, currently it is occupied by the drivers Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, and if I'm being honest, I do believe that one of these two great drivers will be leaving at the end of the season. Now, before I say my final opinions on which of these two drivers are going to get the seat, please do not kill me with a brick. This is personal opinion. So, with that being said, the driver between Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton that are going to be partnering George Russell in 2022 at the Mercedes team is going to be Valtteri Bottas. Now, before you kill me, hear me out. Now, Lewis Hamilton potentially at the end of the season will become an 8-time world champion, meaning he will be the greatest of all time indefinitely. Unless Red Bull continue their good performance and somehow squeeze one over Mercedes. However, despite this, Mercedes is still a really darn good team, so I wouldn't be surprised if they win again, despite how good Red Bull has been in the opening 2 rounds. Which means that Lewis Hamilton will basically have nothing left to prove, and by then, he may just be sick of Formula 1 and sick of winning. Now, this could age like the milk that my dad went out to get and inevitably never occurred, but Lewis Hamilton could end up racing for another 5 years. I mean, we don't know. But personally, I think by the end of this year, he will have had enough, at least in Formula 1. I mean, there are many other options to drive, considering he does like electric vehicles. I could see him driving in Formula E, or maybe something like NASCAR or IndyCar, or maybe something like Dakar. You don't know. Maybe he would even convert his efforts to the Extreme E and go drive for his team or something like that. You never know. or he could even do something outside of racing and maybe pursue music, as he does seem to enjoy making music, as he has said it himself, or maybe continue to do stuff to try and help the world, like world change and such. So in all honesty, I just think a guy like Hamilton is so talented that really, after this year, if he wins again, there's just so much other stuff that he could do, and that's why I just can't see him staying in Mercedes again, even if he does win this year as well. I just feel that he will feel that it's time to move somewhere else, which leaves the only other option being Valtteri Bottas. Now, yes, he has had a stinker of 2 opening races in 2021, and in his 2020 season was not the best, let's be honest, nearly losing out to Max Verstappen for second place until a little bit of bad luck occurred for Max. But we gotta be honest, this guy has experience. He's been driving in Formula 1 for quite a long time now, and he's already been in Mercedes for quite a couple of years, considering he's been driving for them since 2017 after Nico Rosberg retired, which means he knows the Mercedes team and Mercedes know him. Although his results are kind of inconsistent and he cannot consistently be as good as his potential allows him to be, he is still an experienced driver who manages to haul in the points. And we must remember his teammate is Lewis Hamilton, which is arguably one of the best drivers that have ever been in Formula 1, so it's not easy to compete with that. But still, his results are kind of inconsistent, but I still think he is a really darn good driver for the most part, and I think that experience would be a great thing to partner with the young upcoming superstar in George Russell. Of course though, this is only if Lewis Hamilton decides to retire, but we will have to see. And that is my opinion on the driver lineup for Mercedes in 2022. Do you guys agree with George Russell and Valtteri Bottas being the team drivers for 2022, or do you think that Lewis Hamilton will stay and George Russell will become the 2 drivers, or something else? Do you think some other driver will take the seat? Comment down below and tell me who do you think will be the Mercedes 2022 driver lineup, and whether you agree with what I said today. Anyways, that's gonna be it. We also have a gaming channel if you guys are interested in checking it out. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Keep it trackside. Goodbye.